Well, hello, all of my crafty friends. I'm so honored to be back here again today with you guys, and I wanted to show you guys a lot of different things on the computer today, kind of rolled into one. I've had some questions about working with digital images and with your mouse getting bigger, and of course we're going to do our Can My Cricut Do That part so that we can come back tomorrow and create a really fun project. So I hope you guys will be able to stick with me today while I take you through some of this techie stuff. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on making my mouse bigger so you guys can see what I'm pointing at. I'm going to go to my start menu and I'm going to click on my settings. I'm going to click on this that says ease of access. And once I get to there, I'm going to scroll down to the left and I'm going to click on my mouse. I'm going to click this blue thing that says change mouse settings. And then there is one about halfway down the page that says additional mouse settings. And then I'm going to click on the pointers tab. Now, if you look, there is a drop down box at the top of this screen. I'm going to end up choosing the extra large inverted option, which is going to give me a large black pointer that will also change colors when I am hovering over certain things. So once we click OK, you guys are going to see my mouse change. There we go. So that is how you change your mouse. Now I'm going to take you into Word. I am going to click on the insert button because we're going to bring in one of our digital images. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of different things. I'm going to click on pictures. I'm going to click on this device and I'm going to go into my downloads folder in order to pull up one of my digital images. Now I'll be working with a digital image from Not Too Shabby. One of the things that you will see in the right side is this crop, and that is going to allow you to adjust your width and your height. And when you first click on it, the proportions are locked, and I'll show you in a second how to unlock them. You can't move it as well. Well, if you click back on it and you see this little rainbow thing, I want you to click on the very last rainbow, and that is going to allow you to freely move your image around your paper. So the other issue with doing it in Word, sometimes when you get a digital image, there is kind of a border around it. So as you can see, when I brought in the second one, or I copied and pasted it, whenever I go to try to get them closer together, it kind of cuts off because we have this border around. So I'm going to take you guys into another program in a second to show you how we could probably fix this. So now I'm going back to that crop and I'm going to click that little arrow to the right bottom, and this brings up a box and there's a lock aspect ratio. If you unclick that box, it will allow you to adjust your width and your height freely without the alternate being changed with it. So basically it unlocks your aspect ratio so that you can move your length and width freely. So now that I have that done, I also want to show you guys, like, what if you wanted it to be facing the other way? You can go up to the top and you click on this button that says layout. It's going to bring up some other options. You click the rotate and we're going to flip it horizontally. We can flip it 90 degrees. We can flip it 180 degrees. So that is another thing that you can do in Word if you are doing a digital image. So now I'm going to just bring in another, because for the project that we will be completing tomorrow, I want 4 brownies. So again, this comes from the Not Too Shabby shop. Jamie hand draws these, and I will have her shop listed in the description box below. Please make sure you guys go and check her out. So we have these 4 in there. I'm going to now take you guys to a web search, and I'm sure that you can just search this on the web. I have the Adobe suite, so it's easier for me to go in here, but I'm looking up Adobe Spark. I'm going to launch it. And then on the left hand side, I'm going to click create a project. Once I click create a project, I'm going to go down to custom because I want this to be a project that I can change the length and width. I'm going to click down and do it in inches. I'm going to make this a 5 by 7. So I'm going to make the width 6.5 and the height 4.5 because this will be my very front panel of my card. So once I have that, I can now go to this plus sign up in the top right and I can add and upload a photo. I want to go in and get my digital image again and click move freely because I want to be able to move it wherever I want it to be on the canvas. Now that that has come in, you are able to size this by moving the little handle to the right. Now they also have a crop feature. Remember I told you about that border that's around it? This is one of your workarounds for the border. So I'm getting as close as I can to the brownie without touching it. So now when I bring in another photo, I will have the ability to get really close to it. So I'm going to bring it in again. And I'm going to show you how to duplicate this in a second. But I'm going to bring it in again. And again, I'm going to click on that crop button. And I'm going to get as close as I can to the brownie without actually touching the lines. And this is going to allow me to get much closer to the other images. So now that I have two of those in, I can flip it with the flip options. And then up at the top, you have these three little options. If you click that plus, that will just add another of the whatever image you just brought in. So I'm going to add two more of those. And once I get those done, I can play with the sizing and get it to the way that I want it to be for my 4.5 by 6.5 canvas that I'm working on. Once you get this done, then you're going to have the option to download this. So once I have everything kind of put the way that I want it to be on here, looking how I'm going to want it to print out, then I am going to go in and do a little bit of downloading. So the download button is up here in the top right. You click download. I have it on PNG. Start download with a transparent background. That's going to download. I'll be able to find it in my downloads folder, and then I'll be able to go in and print it. Again, I did this twice. I did it with the Word document because I wanted you guys to kind of see that. I'm going to go ahead and save that one, and then I did this with Adobe Spark. Now, some of us use Adobe Suites. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is probably the best way of working with the digital images, and that is going to be in Photoshop to completely get rid of the background. So we're going to go into Photoshop. Once we get into Photoshop, I am going to create a new project. So over here on the left, you have create new. I'm going to go in and I'm going to click on that option. Once that option comes up, we're going to have three options, and I'm going to click that custom Photoshop one because it already comes in a 5x7, which is what I work with. I'm going to click file, I'm going to click new, and I'm going to find my brownie. Once I find my brownie, over here on the left side, there is an option for the eraser. I'm going to right click it. And I am going to click the last one that says the magic eraser tool. Now, once I click on that magic eraser tool and then I come and click on this background, you see the whole background goes away. Now, all I have to do is file, save as. There is no longer a border around here. Now I can move this on Microsoft Word or on Adobe Spark, however I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this to my computer, and now I'm going to go back into Word and show you guys what this looks like now that I've taken all of the background away. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to get my brownie, going to bring it in. Again, I'm going to size it down with the crop on the right hand side. Once I get that done, and I get the ratio the way that I want it to be, because like I said, this is going to be the images that we're going to be printing out for tomorrow's project. So I hope you guys come back tomorrow so that you guys can see what it is that we end up making. I'm going to click on our rainbows, click the last rainbow so that it allows me to move everything freely on my page, and I'm going to get this lined up exactly where I want it to be. Once I get this where I want, I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy, right click, and paste. Now, as you can see, it's almost like having masking. I can place it over it a little bit. I can place things on top of it. I did a card a few weeks ago with my not too shabby donuts, and this is what I did. This is how I got my donuts stacked on top of each other. So you can go in, and again, we went to the layouts. You can rotate it however you want them to be to kind of give some variation in the way that it looks. And I am going to create 4 brownies on my Word document. Once I get them created on my Word document exactly the way that I want it, and I have everything sized how I want it, I will be able to go back in and print this out so I can get ready to color. Now we're going to go into design space. I'm going to bring in a square. I'm going to move it to the 1 inch on the X and the Y axis so that I will have good working space for our card. Once I get that done, I'm going to unlock aspect ratio, and I'm going to change this to 6.5 by 4.5 because that is going to be the size of the front panel of our card. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it 6 inches, and I'm going to make it a 1/2 inch high. I'm going to go ahead and change the color so we can see that on top of that gray. So this smaller rectangle, I am going to be moving it so that I have a 1/2 inch on top and about 1/4 inch on both sides. And I'm just going to center it horizontally to make sure that I have that correct. Once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that second rectangle, and I'm going to move that to the bottom of the card panel. Again, I want to make sure that I have about a 1/2 inch from the bottom and about 1/4 inch on either side. So I'm going to use my X and Y axis in order to get that placed exactly the way that I want it to be, to make sure I have the same amount of space on the top and the bottom. Once I have that done, I need to slice this out. So I'm going to take that white rectangle on the top and the gray rectangle, and I'm going to slice it. Then I'm going to move that gray rectangle to the back, and I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom rectangle. You only can slice 2 images at a time, so that's why I did not try to slice them both together. So now I'm going to go in and start looking for a sentiment. And initially I thought I was going to want a kind of thinking of you sentiment, but I just wanted the word thinking, and I was going to do a sentiment banner for the of you or about you. But then I started thinking about smiling and how I want to smile, and I love smiling, and I think that this should be a smiley card. So I wanted the word smile, and I didn't even realize that Cricut had so many smiles in Access. So I chose 2, then I brought them in so that I could look at them side by side, and I'm going to move this down to 1.5 inches high, which is how big I want my sentiment to end up being. And I'm going to choose this yellow and blue one because I really like that one better once I brought it in. So I'm going to get rid of that other one, and I'm going to duplicate that top layer 4 more times. I'm going to change the color of the very last one to a different color because that will be the one that I create in vinyl for the top of our sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and center align all of that so I can get it all back together. And then I'm going to go over here to shapes, and I'm going to bring in another square so I can go ahead and create the inside of our card panel, which will also be 6.5 by 4.5. And I always like to create my inside panel because sometimes I like having the Cricut write for me. And I wanted to show you guys a little bit about crooning today. Sometimes when you go in, your letters are super far apart and it makes your wording look really funky, and you don't want to use the sentiment. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to type out what I want this to say. And it's going to say a brownie a day keeps the frownies away. I really like that. I don't know, it's kind of wonky and kind of punny and all that stuff, but you know, it made me smile. So I'm hoping that that will make someone else smile. So once I have that written the way that I want it to be, I'm going to center align that, and then I'm going to move it up here to where that other card panel is, just to kind of start getting an idea of what it's going to look like on this panel. Now I want it to write, so I'm going to click back on my fonts. I'm going to click filter, and I'm going to click writing. Now this is going to bring up all the fonts that are in Design Space as well as the fonts that are on your computer that the Cricut can write for you. And I'm just going to go through and peruse. I can get lost in fonts, so I'm not going to do this for too long. But I'm going to look at a couple of different fonts. I'm going to bring in the font that I'm going to use. This is the Beadworks one. I love this font, but I chose not to use that one because I kind of had a certain font in mind. So I'm going to also show you guys a font that would need a lot of crooning. Now, there's a font in here in particular that is a close to my heart font. And I really love this font, but if you can look at it, like the letters are so far apart. So I usually don't use it. And I'm going to choose to use this DJ Inkers one. Once I get the font in that I want, I am going to change the width of it to get it as wide as I want. I'm not going to worry about the height yet because I'm going to go down here to line spacing and I'm going to decrease that line spacing so that it can bring the lines of the sentiment closer together. And that will pretty much get it to the height that I want this sentiment to be. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to duplicate this sentiment because I want to go back to that idea of crooning, and I'm going to use that particular sentiment that I was talking to you guys about that is from the Close to My Heart. So I'm just finishing up kind of getting this actual sentiment, the one that I'm going to use where I want it to be. I'm going to grab it and the card panel and attach it. Now I'm going to move this sentiment down a little bit and I'm going to go back to the fonts and I'm going to find this font that was the font from Close to My Heart. I'm going to click on it, and like I said, you can see that these letters are super far apart, and it's not that they're really far apart, but it's just the way that the letters are made. So I have ungrouped all of the letters, and I'm just going to take this Frownies word and I'm going to work with that one with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get all the rest of this and delete it because we won't need it. This is just for me to give you this tip for the day. So now everything is ungrouped, so all of the letters can move independently. Now it looks far apart, but it's really not. If you see where this R ends and where the O begins, they actually are very close to each other. So, but sometimes we don't want it to look this way. So you can click on each of these letters and use your left and right arrow, or you can use your mouse to kind of move your letters however you want them. You can also use the up or down. For example, with this N, I may want it to be even closer, but that loop at the bottom is causing me an issue. So I may want to move it down and then move it closer to the W so that it looks closer and all closed in as if it is one word. So again, you can move with your up and down arrows, your side to side arrows. I use the arrows a lot because it keeps everything in line the way that it is supposed to be, and you don't have to worry about your letters becoming off-centered. So as I'm moving these around, getting them as close as I would like for them to be, you know, you might want some of your letters to overlap or loop into each other because this is a very loopy type of sentiment. You can do it however you want, but I just wanted you guys to know that crooning is a possibility in Design Space and you can do that. So now I went in and I have also gotten all of these faces. Now I grabbed these faces because I wanted smiley faces with my card. I grabbed out 3 different types of smiley faces and I wanted to look at them up close, and I ended up choosing this last set, but you guys let me know. Do you guys think that this first set, this second set, or this set were the best option? I would love to know in the comments. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the sizing of these, and I want them to be about a 1/2 inch. They don't have to be perfectly matching each other. I'm not so worried about that, but I just wanted them around the same size. So I'm going to go in and get all of that done. And once I get all of that done, I'm going to duplicate all 4 of those faces because I want 2 different sets of them. Now, once we get that done, that is pretty much going to be it for what we're doing today. And we will come back tomorrow and I will show you how this card ends up going together. I hope you guys have learned something. I hope I have helped, and I hope you guys have an awesomely crafty day. Love you lots. Bye.